Hello everyone, I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review. As always, we start out every week with the patch notes, but before we get into that, I just want to say this was a very long week, so I apologize. The video is going to be going up a little bit later than normal. But as far as the patch notes go, we had a live patch. 3.6.2 went live, but Star Citizen still isn't a very good place. There was really no bug fixes at all for this, unless it was related to the 890 jump. So if you're an 890 jump owner, enjoy your ship. If you're not, enjoy the game-breaking bugs, and look forward to 3.7. Hopefully a lot of those get fixed, and we'll discuss a bit more about that later in the show. Now, we did get some monthly reports this week, and as always, I'm going to break them down into the certain very small parts, I guess, that I find important to discuss on the show. If I went through every line individually, this would be a 5-hour show, so I'm not going to do that. So the links to the full notes and monthly reports and everything that we discuss will be in the description below. So again, starting out with the Persistent Universe monthly report, we had some weapon work going on. They closed out tasks on the multi-tool mining attachment, so it will not be a whole new separate weapon. It will actually be a very small attachment, possibly, that we put on our multi-tool, which is a pretty good idea of them, is use an already existing asset, maybe add a little something to it, and make it more useful. Sweet. Now we have something to play with in the game. They also did a full selection of barrel and underbarrel attachments, and those were completed. So this is something that I discussed on previous weeks in review, where they just showed us a silencer, and I was worried that we weren't going to get kind of the full assortment of attachments, and it seems like we are, so that's really exciting. Moving on to back-end services, and this is going to matter a little bit later in the show, but the iCache went under significant testing, and this is really meaningful because it should mean a lot for our lack of wipes of our UEC and ship purchases, as well as some other items related to our inventory. And we'll discuss that a little bit later in the video. Then onto design, they are distributing new materials. So this has to do with the FPS mining and harvestables. And I was thinking that for FPS mining, that we were probably going to mine the same minerals that we were seeing when we mine in our prospector. And with this, it kind of brings to light that maybe we will not. And I'll probably go into that a little bit more of why that's important a bit later when we discuss the Inside Star Citizen video. But basically, it's important to have different mineable assets, because otherwise the values of the amount of minerals that you can carry really doesn't mean anything. They also did their first steps of mission giver audits, and if anyone's tried to use the mission givers in the game, they know that there's a bit of a struggle with them at times, and they're not really great. So going through them, auditing them, and adjusting them, fixing them, everything over the course of the next few patches should really bring a lot more fun to the game. So they're kind of living up to what they said they were going to do with some quality of life stuff, and it does seem through this monthly report that that's been a bit of a focus. So the mission giver audit means a lot to me. Let me know in the comments what it means to you. I'm kind of interested. They also put new items in the shops for 3.7. That's all they really said. Nothing in detail there, and I kind of like that. I like that they leave a little bit to be found in the game. So I'll be looking forward to jumping into 3.7 and seeing what's new in the shops. So they also continued work on voice over IP and face over IP under the features gameplay section. And as most of you who've played the game before knows, that there's been a bit of an issue with them, specifically voice over IP for me. At times it just doesn't work, and others it gets a little bit staticky and weird sounding. So hopefully we'll see some improvements with that as well in 3.7. As well as work was kind of finalized on the new customizer for 3.7. So we haven't seen any of that in any Inside Star Citizens or anywhere else yet. And I'm really excited to maybe customize my character a bit more and make it feel more like me in the game. So I'm pretty hyped for that. And that was the Persistent Universe monthly report. And moving on to the Squadron 42 monthly report, there were some overlap there in the reports, but the things that stick out to me for Squadron 42 that likely will pull over to the PU are under the art, and specifically the character art section, where the first hair was finished under the new hair pipeline. And basically that means a lot to me, because when you look at the NPCs and you look at your player character, everything looks really good, and then you look at the hair and it kind of takes away from it. So I'm really excited to see what's new and what's coming with that in the future. And then under engineering, the first draft of the new graphics pipeline is submitted, and these are the first steps to kind of getting Vulkan support and hopefully much more improved performance as well. And then lastly, we had the Shipjacker armor, which is, I think, for 3.9 now. It was supposed to be for 3.7. We see a little work being done on that, and it looks really awesome. So I'm pretty hyped. I don't know if I'll be a Shipjacker, but using that armor might be pretty fun at times. And then moving on to our roadmap updates. This is going to be a little different because CIG is doing the roadmap updates a little bit differently. So I usually look at the roadmap updates from Reddit, but now we're kind of getting a description of when something moves, why it moves, and what it's moving for, and potentially what is replacing it. And we're getting that with Roadmap Roundup every week. And Tyler Wicken posted this one, and the first little bits of discussion with that are salvages moved from 3.8 to 4.0. And basically, it didn't make sense for them to put in caves without gameplay, so they took the salvage team off, and they did FPS mining as well as some quantum fuel mining as well. I don't know if that has anything to do with 3.7, the quantum fuel mining part, because it's not on the roadmap right now, and basically it's unclear what that actually entails. Is it done in a prospector? Is it just done in FPS mining? We don't really know yet. And they also said here in the roadmap roundup that it'll be on the roadmap at some point soon. So keep an eye out for that. Security system moves from 3.8 to 4.0, and it kind of moved to make room for a number of things. So they are prioritizing social AI, which is just any non-combat AI encounters, I guess. Also, prison gameplay. This is extremely weird, and maybe it's Squadron 42 related because I don't see the point right now. But basically, using the cave tech, they want to deliver prison gameplay loops where it's like if you die and you were a criminal, you end up in a prison and you have to break out or pay a fine. It's also part of the law system. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm not too keen on it, but let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Also, in-game orgs and rep systems. This is not your in-game org. This is in-game orgs like the Merchants Guild or the Bounty Hunters Guild, things like that. So it's like a membership club that you would join, and you get discounts on merchants, and maybe it's tied to the rep system. And we're going to hear about that from Tony Z soon, but I don't know if that means at CitizenCon or sometime on an Inside Star Citizen. Probably an Inside Star Citizen, but we'll see. Like I mentioned before in the monthly report, that Bounty Hunter armor moved from 3.7 to 3.9, and this is the look that we got at it was from here. So just briefly going over that. Now, video content. We got some good stuff this week. I'm really happy with our video content this week. Obviously, this doesn't mean that all is great. Again, we had a good week. I hope they continue with this kind of quality every week, although I know it's difficult. So on the first part of Inside Star Citizen, they talked about the personal commodity inventory.
Personal commodity inventory is the first step on the way to the full personal inventory. And what the personal commodity inventory does is it allows you to be able to pick up commodities after you've mined them and then actually put those commodities onto your armor or into your backpack. Now obviously how this differs from a regular personal inventory is that a personal inventory would normally be able to store items. So you'd be able to put small, guns or magazines or other different items like a Big Benny's box and store them in your inventory. But the personal commodity inventory is just a specialized inventory that only stores commodities. What we've been able to do is access your inventory via the personal inner thought menu. So the personal inner thought menu will be able to go into interact mode, select the pip, the interaction pip that will display, or you'll be able to use the associated hotkey. That will take you into your personal inventory. You'll be able to see all the items that you've collected, and you'll be able to do a few things from that menu. First, you'll be able to drop individual items, which will then drop them on the floor, but you'll also be able to select a store all button. Now the store all functionality will basically store all of the things that are inside your backpack at that particular moment in time and store them in a cargo box at your feet. So you'll be able to load up your backpack and then go to the ship, unload into a cargo box, and then when you go to the kiosk, you'll be able to sell those items as loot items directly from your ship, or you'll be able to access those items directly from your core if you have them already stored in there. That's the first step. Obviously, later down the line, we'll hope to be actually introduce the item functionality as part of the iCache system, which will allow us to store all of the things that you collect and over and above commodities, but this is the first step in that direction.
And that was really cool. And what I really liked about that is that he went into what a personal inventory from the original roadmap was and what we're actually getting. So this is the personal commodity inventory, which is only commodities to start. And then he tells us about the iCache system, which is a tech hurdle they need to climb in order to have a more realistic inventory system where we can store magazines and medipens and all the things that we can find and buy in the Star Citizen universe. So it was nice to see where they are, where they're going, what issues they have in front of you. Very transparent, very, very good. I'm super happy with that. I also just am really kind of interested in this. Going out and gathering things is common in a lot of games, and it's nice to see just regular gameplay features coming into Star Citizen. But I have a few questions. It's a little weird. The box that you put the harvestables into is a mission-sized box. It's not a full SCU box. So a mission-sized box is 0.125 SCU, and a SCU box are the boxes that appear in your cargo ships when you buy and sell cargo from a kiosk. That's 100 units. So given the price of a lot of the material that you can mine, and obviously the harvestables we don't know yet, they're not that valuable at the small mission box level, which is 12.5 units. So for example, if an item was 10 credits per unit, it would only be 125 credits if you sold it, right? So that's not a lot, and going out there and playing the game, you want to make your time worth it, and missions that you do being worth it, so you can earn these ships in game and stuff like that. So it may not be worth your time doing a lot of this FPS mining and harvesting stuff. So I'm interested to see what's going on, because they show in the kiosk that the box was 6 out of 100 units. So maybe these boxes are like magical and can hold 100 units of things. I don't know. So I'm really looking forward to jumping in 3.7 and checking it out, and we'll have to see. Then we moved on, and the Harbinger and Sentinel interior highlights were shown. So we're not just seeing the exteriors like we saw last week, we're getting some interiors. So check them out.
So this is the Vanguard Sentinel. Right now the color scheme on this is temporary. We're kind of experimenting just to see what we can do. The actual exterior of the Vanguard Sentinel is the same body as the Warden and the Hoplite. The actual weaponry and armaments are different. The main thing that changes with the Vanguard Sentinel is the central habitation pod. So this is where the E-War gameplay is going to be taking place. So the actual terminal, it's like a larger version of what you have in the Vanguard Warden. Some features in here are the same as the Warden. You've got like a bathroom and a galley and some beds still. The main feature is this hacking station. So the difference between the Sentinel and the Harbinger, mainly visible on the interior. Here we have the new Harbinger torpedo room. One of the biggest appeals of Vanguard Harbinger is being able to watch the torpedoes launch. I think I've seen online some of the fans are quite eager to watch that. think the Sentinel and the Harbinger should prove quite fun variants of the Vanguard. One thing that's still going to change about the Vanguard Harbinger is obviously where these torpedoes are going to get fired from. There'll be a hatch underneath the ship, so you can see the torpedo go from inside the ship to firing away.
They're pretty cool. They're not too flashy or anything. The Sentinel with the E-War stuff looks very E-War-like, almost like a submarine, and the Harbinger looks really cool. You'll be able to sit in the back and see the missiles be shot out of your ship. So I think that's pretty neat, but doesn't excite me too much, but it was a nice little segment nonetheless. And then we move on to something really interesting that we had questions about last week, was proximity assist. What is it?
So in 3.6 we introduced hover mode. So I'm going to jump into the game and show you what we have been working on as an improvement to this. First of all, you'll notice that the sort of helicopter aspects of hover mode have been removed. We decided that this was not really, it wasn't very intuitive, and it wasn't really achieving what we wanted. And what we wanted actually was softer, more believable, realistic flying. And so if I fly low to the ground and I sort of maneuver like this, you can almost immediately see how much slower the ship is. Whereas if I, accelerate up and fly away, then you sort of get the normal handling that we always had with the Gladius.
Similar to the personal commodity inventory section of the video, I like what they did here too. They shared what worked with hover mode, or mostly what didn't work with hover mode, and why they're going to proximity assist instead. So they removed everything from hover mode, and I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of wish that there was a way that they could have used proximity assist with hover mode. I'm obviously not a gameplay programmer. I don't understand what was going on behind the scenes, but hover mode didn't seem that bad to me to completely remove it. Hover mode seemed like it needed some tweaking. So this is another thing where I kind of want to pass this off on to you and ask you what you thought about this, specifically the removal of hover mode with the replacement of this. This all looks good, but the idea of hover mode made sense. It just acted really weird at times. So maybe when in the tweaking of it, they just realized that this isn't going to work and went with something different. But they do explain in this section of what they really wanted. They just wanted some smoother, less jerky flight while in atmosphere. But then they also go in and explain what they want out of atmospheric flight and what they're going to do to change it.
And one thing we're going to try is reducing the efficiency of the thrusters in atmosphere so that you get weaker thrusters in atmosphere. We can get a little bit closer to like real aircraft flying. And that in combination with this proximity assist feature should really solve the problem that hover mode didn't adequately solve.
This is pretty interesting. Lowering the ability of our thrusters when in atmosphere to kind of gain more realistic flight potentially. So another thing in 3.7 to look forward to seeing how this is actually implemented and if it goes well or not. Maybe we're going to have some interesting in-atmosphere ship combat. We'll have to see. The one thing about the change to hover mode and some of these other things that they had mentioned previously was they didn't really, or at least maybe we mentioned it, was that we don't really like the idea of ships just kind of pointing nose down at ground targets and being able to destroy them. The idea of it being a little bit more difficult was kind of nice to me. Obviously, trying to blow up turrets or something like that was a bit difficult because you couldn't lock onto them and your guns wouldn't converge on them. But the idea of it being a little bit more difficult with flying was kind of nice to me. So again, passing this on to you, what do you guys think about this? It's pretty interesting. And then moving on, we have Star Citizen Live, and this time we can actually discuss it on this show. So for the first time in I think a month, we're actually going to be discussing Star Citizen Live here, and this one was all about development. So the first thing is why the switch to staggered development, and I think they give a really good explanation here.
Why did we decide to switch to staggered development now?
Obviously, for 3.0, we were very feature-driven, and what happened was things just kind of kept on coming in, and the date just kind of kept on getting pushed back. When we switched over to 3.1, 3.2, then from there, we were going through and setting up a certain cadence, where we were supposed to be more date-driven. However, some of the features that were coming in were still rough. and rougher than we would like. Obviously, for 3.5, 3.6, we didn't release on time, and a lot of the features just kept on coming in later and later and later, depending on the size of the feature. But for most of our features, it takes longer than basically 3 sprints to get it working. So that's 6 weeks that we're talking about. We were just noticing that, and we were feeling it internally, of this cycle that we were getting into, as well as the product that we were putting out, wasn't hitting our mark. And basically the teams were frustrated. We were frustrated. And so we started talking about it internally, how we can adjust things and try this out.
What I liked about this is the end, really, the most, where they didn't say that this was the solution to all their problems, which was kind of what we got from the original quarterly release discussion way back when with Aaron. It felt that way, at least. And this seems to be something that they're trying out, and they're going to see if it works. And if it doesn't, they're going to try something else, and they're going to keep trying things until they find something that works. And that's nice, instead of them keep doing they could just go back to the 3.0 days, and we obviously don't want that. So them continuing to try things to get the game as enjoyable as possible while still developing it is ideal for everybody. It's ideal for us. It's ideal for them to get good feedback, and it's just good. I personally just want a game that's a bit more polished. I want to play a game if I can. I know it's an alpha, but personally, I want to try to play as much of a game as I possibly can. And just there was too many bugs in 3.5 and 3.6 to even attempt that. There was lots of videos on this channel that I would have liked to make. I want to redo my how to make money in Star Citizen every patch, but I can't because you can't. So the next thing they talk about is from Chad McKinney, who came on, and it's kind of about persistence, and it's really, really exciting.
We are also exploring, I'm not making any promises, but we are also exploring potentially ways to persist things more permanently sooner. And this would be important things. So for example, maybe your shipped purchases in the game or your UEC. So like things that you think of as like important to your progression in the game. We're exploring possibly storing a much more coarse level data about them across wipes, so that we can kind of restore you back to the, maybe your ship wasn't in the exact same place, but you still have it, right?
Now, I know he starts this out with, I'm not making any promises, but if this gets into the game, you basically have a game for the first time, where they're not constantly restarting everything, and the progression that you made last patch means something in the next patch. So if they can get this in 3.7, 3.8, and any time within this year, that would be amazing. Again, another thing that I just want to pass off. What do you guys think about that? Are you excited? How much does that mean to you? Does it mean as much to you as it means to me? I'm curious. One of the last things that they mentioned towards the end of the video, and something that was pretty relevant to this show and why this show is so long, is why don't they update the features on the roadmap for weeks sometimes? I mean, it was almost a month before we had any updates on the 3.7 roadmap.
Why do we not update some features on the roadmap for weeks? Maybe this is something Brian can speak to.
It's due to the complexity, honestly, and our desire to have everything as accurate as possible. It kind of bites us a little. Publishing the roadmap, obviously, it's our ability to be transparent on what we're doing, show our progress, what we plan to do in the future, and so on. Our end goal is to give everyone, the most up-to-date information, but we want it also to be accurate. Well, we've realized, and I've had this question come personally, even from some members on the team, that it seems like too much of a gap in between. So we've already discussed this internally, and moving forward, we're going to change the frequency of the updates. So I think moving forward, everyone's going to see smaller updates happen more frequently. So when we know something moves, we should update the map to reflect that, so people know what the expectations are. And the flip side, if something a team may finish and we can pull something in sooner, we should also update that as well.
So it was nice to hear from Brian that we're going to be getting more frequent updates, and we obviously see the result of that with Tyler's post that we discussed earlier. So hopefully they continue with this, and it'll really help them be more transparent. And the last thing that we're going to talk about on Star Citizen Live was what was in the thumbnail, and probably why you clicked this link if you've never seen my show before, is they kind of talked about...
Some folks think the logical patch number increase from 3.9 would be 3.10 as the 10th major patch for software version 3. With 4.0 on the roadmap, should we expect a similarly larger leap in gameplay experience like the one we saw with 2.0 or with 3.0?
I would like to think so. I mean, I think obviously if we get server-side OCS, most of Stanton would be there, if not all. So having a full system there, like that to me is a huge, that to me is like a vertical slice.
Yeah.
This
4.0 being considered a vertical slice is a big thing to say. That's nothing to joke about. That's a really big thing for Todd to say. So I don't know what that means in terms of minimal viable product or any future betas, because we still don't have all the pillars at that point as far as we're aware, and they kind of snickered later on and told us to watch CitizenCon. So we'll see, but I don't know. I thought that was a little interesting and a little weird to say. So I don't know if by 4.0 we really have what would be a Star Citizen vertical slice. I think there's still quite a bit that will be missing from the game at that point. So over the next 6 months, we'll see what gets added to the 4.0 roadmap. But for right now, I'm taking a lot of what he just said with a grain of salt. Lastly, our miscellaneous stuff. So this week in Star Citizen is usually what we always have here. And inside Star Citizen this week is going to be about caves. We don't have any Star Citizen Live details just yet. So it's mostly going to be about caves. A little walkthrough there should be neat. And then we also had an 890 jump commercial this week. And the one thing that sticks out to me is, was there just a showing of ship-to-station docking here? Possibly. It's pretty crazy. So that's going to do it for the video today, guys. Again, I apologize for it being a little bit late. I hope you don't mind. But thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you thought about some of these subjects in the comments. Let me know if I missed anything. And yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying these videos, and leave a like on it. So thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.